Today we're going to discuss how to come up with innovative business ideas. You're going to leave knowing how to immediately start crafting more innovative ideas for your team and organization. First, we'll look at the #1 problem that gets in the way of organizations innovating. We'll discuss profiles for being innovative and being a futurist, and you'll walk away with frameworks that you can immediately use. You ready? Let's get started. So the first thing you need to keep in mind when you think about innovating at your organization is that you need a variety of people, not just white suits. Let's look at a couple of examples. Oftentimes we think about organizations and we think that the future just kind of happened to them, it fell on them, and they failed to keep up. But that's not actually true. Let's look at an organization like Blockbuster. Oftentimes organizations rest on their laurels and they make decisions based on the fact that they know what they've been doing and they listen to their white suits. But here's what's interesting. If Blockbuster wanted to know what it needed to do to stay relevant in the future, all they had to do was ask their cashiers. They would have said, "Hey cashiers, what do you see people coming in here complaining about every single day?" And they would have said, "Every day people come in here yelling, maybe even cursing me out, saying that they came all this way and they can't find their videos, or that they kept them too long and why should they have to pay video rental fees?" If they had taken this input instead, they probably would have made the decision to buy Netflix, or they would have upgraded their practices to accommodate those issues. All they had to do was listen to their line people. The same thing goes with cab companies all over the world. Who had more data than them that people kept calling in trying to figure out where's their cab, or they couldn't get a cab in certain neighborhoods? Again, this is a global phenomenon. But what they tend to do is they listen to their management rather than listening to their dispatchers who had all the data they needed. So when I say that it takes all types of people in the room to be innovative, it means that you need everybody involved in the process. I come out of the hospitality industry a couple decades ago. That's where I worked in management. And so when I talk to hospitality companies now, whether it's consulting or even in keynotes, I tell them, you need everyone in the room when it comes time to innovate. You need representatives of all your different departments. That includes stewarding. That includes housekeeping. That includes the shoe shine guy, because they're all having conversations and seeing things that you don't see, your front desk agents. So we want to make sure that we're inclusive of many different types of roles within your organization because they see things that you don't and where management might have blind spots. So here's the next thing. We hear people talk about things like we need diversity, equity, inclusion. We need diversity of thought. And I am not a DEI expert, but I am a futurist. And here's what I know. We do need diversity of ideas in a room, but you cannot have diverse ideas in a room without diverse life experiences. And so you need people of all different backgrounds. You need people that have disabilities. You need people of different racial backgrounds, people who spoke different languages as a first language, because the first language that you learn as a child actually constricts how you tend to think about things, right? And so for me, when I talk about diversity in terms of futurism or foresight, it's not about the cool kids inviting the nerds to the table to make them feel better. No, this is actually how you stay relevant because you're going to have a much larger pool of ideas. Think about this. When you're developing some type of marketing campaign, if you don't have anyone in the room that's a person of color or that has a disability or that has maybe some type of different cultural framework, you could easily create something offensive without even knowing it's a problem. But if you have those people in the room and you give them a voice, that's the important part. You can't just have them there. They have to have a voice. Now you have more ideas, and honestly, you have more people watching your back to ensure that you don't make a costly mistake. So if you want to be innovative, we need people of different levels within the organization. I hate saying levels, but you know what I mean. We need people of different positions, and we need people of diverse backgrounds. And if you have to, hire in consultants to fill in the gaps where you lack diversity. So that's not something we have to be ashamed of or feel bad about, but just figure out, how do we get those gaps filled? If you're having a brainstorming session in one department and everybody's kind of similar, maybe borrow someone from accounting, maybe borrow someone from another department as well if you're only doing brainstorming for things that impact yours. It's going to make it a more rich experience, but not only that, It's going to give you better ideas that you can use. One of the things that I've done with my organization is we partnered with a group of data scientists as well as industrial psychologists, and we created an assessment so that we could look at different personality types that impact how we innovate within an organization. It's called the PACE assessment. Each of those letters accounts for one of those profiles. So for instance, the P is pioneer, the A is the anticipator, the C is the creator, and the E is the explorer. So the pioneers are usually those people that are the first to get information. Those are the Elon Musks of the world. Those are the people that really like brand new things. They'll try anything first. They're going to be the early adapters, right? Then you have A, the anticipators. Now, I mentioned the pioneers. These are the people that usually bring the ideas into the organization. The anticipators tend to be on the opposite end of that. Sometimes in brainstorming, we might say, ooh, they're being negative. These are the people that oftentimes shoot things down. But it's because they're anticipating the challenges. In many organizations, these are the people that occupy positions as attorneys, as accountants, even as PR crisis managers. So these are the people that see ahead and punch holes where there's challenges. So you want them involved in the innovative process as well, but usually you want them at the end. You don't want them necessarily in the room when people are ideating, because it might discourage other people as they're raising their hand and saying, oh, this is why this won't work. But you darn sure want to make sure that you have them before you implement anything, because they're going to help save your bottom if something has the potential to go south. Now let's go into the C, the creators. The creators, these are the people who get the work done. These are the ones who get their hands dirty. So they could be artists, they could be engineers, but they are the doers. You want them in the room because while you might have wonderful ideas from the pioneers, and I'm willing to bet you've seen this before, you've seen this happen, they'll bring in these wonderful ideas. They're not practical, they're not pragmatic, they may not be able to be implemented based on the budgets that your organization typically has. The creators will know this because these are the people that actually have to make it happen. And then the E stands for explorer. These are the people that, similar to the pioneers, they're interested in what's out there. They tend to learn about technology and innovation fairly fast, but they're not first adapters. These are the people that kind of watch a little bit, see if there's practical applications. They are actually the people who are the best managers of the three different profiles because they can communicate between the different groups. You want to make sure that you have people within your organization that represent these same types. Sometimes you can kind of guess where people fall, but oftentimes you can't really. So that's why, like I said, we have an assessment that people take. But if you can just kind of understand the basic roles these people play, I think you can see how some organizations, maybe even yours, when it comes time to innovate, you don't really have different types of people represented. We talked about diversity of idea and diversity of experiences. Well, I worked with a group of data scientists and industrial psychologists to create something called the PACE Personality Assessment, and it measures how future-proof you are. Now, if you really want to make sure that you understand exactly how people will respond and innovate and do things for the future, that assessment is the best tool for that. There's nothing like it on the market. However, if that's not something you're able to do right now, I don't want you to wait. Just go ahead and grab Bob from accounting, grab Tim, the shoe shine guy, grab Susie from the front desk, whatever you need to do to make it happen in the meantime. We don't want you to spend any time stalling where you could be taking action. We also want to make sure that we're seeking ideas outside of our industries. If you want to be innovative, sticking to what's already being recycled, those old stale ideas, those industry best practices, that's not really where innovation lives. See if there's another type of industry that maybe is a sister industry. Maybe they're somewhat similar but a little bit different. Or maybe you want to look at a completely different industry that tends to be revolutionary in how quickly they adopt new things. So maybe we're looking at cosmetics or retail if you're in farm equipment, right? So you might start looking across different industries and say, what are they doing that seems to work or helps with their customer experience or in terms of their operations? Quick question for you. I don't know if you've taken the time to do this, but if you haven't yet, and I have some more juicy tips in a moment, make sure you subscribe to this channel. Better yet, if you know someone else that is struggling with innovation in their organization, share it with them as well. So now that we've talked about who's in the room, you might be thinking, okay, that's great. Do I just have them in here and we just what? You need frameworks now. So let's talk about 3 of the most popular kinds of frameworks. There's many that we use as a futurist when I come in and do consulting. I have specific worksheets and activities I work people through, but I want this to be easy for you and I want you to be able to get started immediately. The first framework is simply brainstorming. You've probably seen that before. Sometimes people do it with different color sticky notes so that they can kind of categorize ideas that are coming in. Sometimes they use a whiteboard. I've even seen people use a wall. I wouldn't recommend it, but hey, it depends on what works for you at your organization. But if you're trying to solve a particular problem, let's say that you're finding that customers keep saying that they're having a negative customer experience when placing orders or whatever their issue is, get the team together, that diverse team, those people that operate in different parts of your organization, and then just start writing on the whiteboard or whatever you're using. Just start writing down, what are some solutions? What are things that we can do about this? What suggestions do you have? Remember, leave it open. Make sure to set the stage that there's no bad ideas, and make sure to ask those folks that are really good at seeing potential challenges or threats to hold off until the end, because they're going to help us cross through the ones that won't work, but we don't want to interrupt the thought process. We want to keep people open. So that's the first very simple framework you can go do immediately. Number 2 is mind mapping. It's very similar to that first framework in that you're putting ideas down, but you kind of see where those ideas lead you. So you might want to start with the central issue that you're having. Like, let's say that customer experience thing we talked about in placing orders. Okay, here's the problem in the middle. Where are some solutions? So people might actually propose different solutions. You're going to draw a line and then map each of these solutions out around it. Well, maybe each of those solutions leads to another thought, or maybe a sub-solution or something else you all haven't thought about. Then you have spokes that come off of that. By the time you're done, you have this really intricate, interesting map with all these lines drawn out, but it allows you to kind of follow the thought process that came from that initial problem or issue. That was the second framework. The third and final framework we're going to discuss today is the SCAMPER framework. Alex Osborne, who created this framework, was an advertising executive, and he believed that anyone could be creative if they had the proper tools and framework to get them started. So if you're one of those people that says that brainstorming and that mind mapping thing, that sounds good, but it just doesn't give me enough constriction to be able to work that way. I'm not a naturally creative person. The SCAMPER method might be for you. So what does SCAMPER stand for? It stands for, the S is substituting, combining, then adapting, modifying, putting something to another use, eliminating, and reversing. So when you're running into challenges and you're trying to come up with innovative solutions, you might say to yourself, is there a way that we can combine 2 offerings to solve this issue? Is there a way that we can reverse this particular process where it might actually be better in a different order? So you're just going through the different letters and looking for possible solutions, leveraging that method. The last thing I want to leave you with today, now that you know that you need to pull diverse people together, I've given you some frameworks to get you started. There's one thing we have not talked about in detail, and I want to give you this very special directive, if you will. I mentioned earlier Blockbuster, and I mentioned cab companies and getting the data that they needed to make smart decisions. Make sure that you're not only polling your people internally, but poll your customers and ask them open-ended questions. Are there things that you see that we could be doing in a more innovative way? Are there challenges that you have with doing business with us? If you already know there's a particular area you're focusing on, ask them open-ended questions regarding things around that area. And it's very important they're open-ended, because if we give them multiple choice, we're restricting the feedback we get. But if we leave it open-ended, when we start to process their answers, we might start to see patterns in their thinking that we haven't even fed them. So that's where the magic happens. Speaking of magic happening, you're going to notice one more treat I have for you today. In the description of this video, you're going to notice a link to download my Future Ready workbook. This workbook is going to help you get started in being more future-proof as an individual, in your career, and in your organization. If you're a business owner, you can even run this for your business. It's a very simple workbook that has 11 easy-to-use worksheets, and it's my free gift to you. So if you haven't already downloaded it, make sure you do it today.